There are now 27 hunters in solo leveling Arise, and with the releases of Meilin Fisher and Yoo Soohyun, they both have completely shaken up the meta, which means a lot of characters have now become a lot better than they previously were, which is why in this video I'll be doing a tier list of all the hunters in solo leveling Arise in order to find out who is the best hunter in the entire game. And this right here is the tier list that I did previously, where we have the SS tier going all the way down to the D tier. However, just like I mentioned in the intro, with the existence of Meilin Fisher and Yoo Soohyun, some of these characters have actually become a lot better. So let's start with all the changes to be made in this tier list. And starting off with any potential changes in the D tier, Kim Sang-sik is still by far the worst character in the game, so he will definitely stay in the D tier. The same will go for the C tier with Song Chil, Han Song-yi, Park Byung-sik, and Jo Kyu-hwan. All of these guys are just very average, just nothing too crazy characters. And then the B tier is going to be the first tier where I actually do make some changes, as Yoo Jin-ho is definitely someone I really wasn't familiar with in terms of how good he can actually be. However, he does need max dupes in order to be really good, but still I do think he is going to go up into the A tier. He's definitely by far one of the best SR hunters in the game, as throughout his whole entire kit he offers just so much different things, with being able to recover your whole team's party with potions, increasing the attack stat of your characters whilst giving them shields as well, so when you pair him up with the shield gear set, you can then also buff the whole damage of your whole team as well, which is amazing. He has other things like defense buffs and just break damage in general, the ability to stun. Like, honestly, this guy has so much in his kit and is such a good character. So yeah, honestly, I really wasn't familiar with your game, Yoo Jin-ho. I can't lie, bro is actually a lot better than I used to think. And then also in the B tier, I might put Lee Joo-hee back down into the C tier, mainly just because as a water healer, just not very useful anymore, simply just because of Meilin Fisher's existence. However, I think I'll still keep her in the B tier for now, but she's definitely close to going down to the C tier. And then for all the other characters in the A tier, I'm somewhat tempted to bump down Kang Tae-shik to the B tier, to be honest, as the main issue with Kang Tae-shik is basically all of his damage does revolve around inflicting the bleed debuff, which is an extremely powerful debuff and extremely powerful damage over time. However, just with a lot of the new content that is currently being added to the game, a lot of enemies now are going to just start becoming more immune to the bleed debuff, so it's going to make him not as good. But to be honest, even with max dupes, Kang Tae-shik is still really, really good. So for now, I'll probably keep him as well as Park Hee-jun and Nam Chae-young in the A tier. But out of the three that could potentially go up, I would probably say Nam Chae-young is going to be the closest one to going up into the S tier. And that is simply just because Nam Chae-young can actually be useful in the Workshop of Brilliant Light, with it being weak to water damage, and especially when it does come to clearing the 25th floor of the Demon's Castle, because a lot of the enemies that you do face in the 25th floor do need to be broken, which can make Nam Chae-young extremely useful. And the same also applies to the 50th floor, with her being a pretty good breaking character for Vulcan as well. But is she really on the level of all these characters? I don't think so just. Unfortunately, she's not, but because overall I would really like some SR hunters to be up here, but unfortunately the game just isn't like that at the moment. So yeah, I think overall the A tier will stay the same as well, with Yoo Jin-ho being newly added. And then for the S tier, some changes are going to be made as well, as I'm going to bump Libora up first of all, just because honestly I think she's a lot more useful than I originally thought as well. As the reason why Libora is actually just such a good character in game is simply just because of her charm debuff that she does apply. It pretty much means she can be ran on like every team in the game, as if you've noticed in a lot of my build guides, a lot of them will feature Libora in terms of when it comes to building certain characters' teams, as overall she does just offer a huge amount of great things to your whole team, with things like the charm debuff, and then also the ability to cleanse debuffs as well, which overall does make her like one of the best sub DPS characters in the game, which is why she's going to go into the S plus tier as well, alongside all of these characters here. And then finally in the S tier, the main man himself, Hwang Dong-soo, is also going to find himself in the S plus tier now. And the reason for Hwang Dong-soo now being up in the S plus tier is simply because of the fact that his first basic skill, which is Urge to Kill, and then also his support skill, which is Cold-Blooded Connection, have one thing in common with each other, and that is the ability to completely remove and strip the shields from any enemy in the game. And with the release of Workshop of Brilliant Light, he can now use this effect to its fullest, which then now makes him one of the best characters for the Workshop of Brilliant Light final floor, which is why personally for me, I think he's going to go straight up into the S plus tier, as he does have a really, really good use now. And then as for the rest of the hunters in the S plus tier, honestly, if this video was made not too long ago, I might have actually put Silvermane Baekhyun down in the S tier. However, with all the changes to his passive, he has become a lot better again, as just like with Kang Tae-shik, Silvermane Baekhyun's damage primarily does revolve around his bleed debuff, and then also like how I mentioned before, with a lot of enemies and especially bosses being immune to the bleed debuff, it did kind of make Silvermane Baekhyun's like purpose kind of not really meaningful anymore. However, what was actually really good of the devs is that they also gave him the Curse of the Magic Beast debuff, which is similar to a bleed debuff, but can only be applied to bosses that are normally immune to the regular bleed debuff, which is great, as it can deal damage equal to 50% of Silvermane Baekuno's HP every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, which is going to be a decent amount of damage, depending on how much HP that you do have, which is why for now he's going to stay in the S+ tier, thanks to that new debuff that he does have. And then for the last 4, I'm actually going to go ahead and bump up Alicia Blanche, as honestly, she is definitely by far the best hunter in the game right now. And that is just solely because of Meilin Fisher's existence, but again, just like with Dongsu and other characters, it is simply mainly because of the workshop of Brilliant Light, as the recommended typing is water, so water element or attribute characters do way more damage, which for me overall does make her now better than Charhain, as Alicia does have a much more important endgame usage than Charhain does. However, Charhain is still an absolute monster of a DPS and definitely does still deserve to be in the SS tier. So then those are all the changes I wanted to make, so now we can actually talk about the 2 brand new characters, which are Meilin Fisher and also Yoo Soohyun. And starting off with Meilin Fisher, and she is a water healer, and the reason why her existence does now also make Alicia Blanche the best character in the game is because she offers a ton of different things, as just through her passive alone she can increase the amount of water damage that enemies will take by 8% for 16 seconds, and then also with one of her other buffs through her passive, she can increase all of your allies' attack and defense all the way up to 24% depending on how many stacks you do get with it. Her second basic skill up is also amazing because it also does buff your whole team's core attack damage as well, and again, because a character like Alicia does do a lot of core attack damage, this buff is honestly just the perfect pairing for the 2 characters. And then finally, if she didn't apply enough buffs and debuffs already, she also has her ultimate skill, which applies the pumped up buff, which increases your whole team's attack, defense, crit rate, core attack damage, and also damage reduction by 8%, which is nuts. As being able to apply all of these buffs just makes her just really, really good and just an amazing pairing for practically any character in the game. So yeah, I can't lie, Meilin Fisher, absolute god tier character. I don't think she's SS tier. She's definitely one of the closest characters to being SS tier, but easily one of the easiest S+ tier characters you'll ever see in the game. And then finally, the final new character and the latest character to be added to the game is going to be Yoo Soohyun. And Yoo Soohyun is an insanely good fire DPS character and is definitely now the best one in the entire game, as just like a character like Choi Jong-in, she is a fire mage character who also has a lot of scaling with things like defense penetration and just overall damage increases as well. However, unlike Choi Jong-in, Yoo Soohyun can actually crit, which overall is going to make her instantly very close to being better already, but it's mainly a lot of things through her passive, being able to apply the magic reaction debuff, which can increase the amount of fire damage that your enemies take, and also the fact that her second basic skill, kill shot, will always be able to do permanent type advantage damage, which is going to make her one of a kind character. So to be honest, I'm going to put her in the S+ tier alongside Meilin. So there you have it for today's video. Overall, I do think Alicia Blanche is now the best character in the entire game, just mainly because she has a lot of ways to buff her damage thanks to Tusk and also Meilin Fisher. But overall, if you did enjoy this video or you just found it just useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps a ton, and click the link down below to support me as a creator, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!